Today's guest is Casey Brown. Casey is from Stanfordville, New York. I've known Casey pretty well for about the past 10 years. Casey did a college internship on my family's farm back where we grew up, and we've been pretty good friends since. Casey came out here to Montana to elk hunt. We spent the last 9 days elk hunting. We didn't have any success with elk, but Casey was able to arrow a white-tailed deer on his last day out here. We had a fun time sitting down and talking with Casey and hope to do it again next time he's out here to hunt. All right, let's start this podcast.
Let's do it.
Casey Brown, where are you from?
Stanfordville, New York.
And you came all the way to Montana to hunt.
Yeah.
Where's Stanfordville, New York?
So it's like about 2 hours north of New York City, about an hour south of Albany. It's like in a pretty desolate area, Dutchess County. It's right where, real close
about
to where
10 minutes from Millbrook.
Yeah,
Okay.
about 10 minutes from Millbrook. Poughkeepsie's kind of right there is another big city. But yeah, I mean, it's just same kind of thing that Tim grew up with. I mean, I was fortunate enough, right now, actually, the family farm's about like 230 acres, but we back up to like 600 acres of a wildlife sanctuary that nobody can hunt on or anything. So it's like you could always be out there. So like essentially I grew up on like 500 acres of hardwoods to just do whatever I want. It's pretty sweet.
Sounds
Pretty way
awesome.
to grow up.
Cool.
Great.
All right, podcast over.
This is going swimmingly.
That's awesome, man. How long you guys known each other?
I mean, Tim, like we've known each other forever. Like I remember playing baseball against him, and I can still remember, like, I didn't know him, but I remember hearing about your father passing away. And like I remember my dad even like we were getting some fence posts to your mother from like after it happened. And like, cause they were just like used, came off of a job and we were getting them to you. So like our lives revolved around each other for a really long time. But I don't think maybe a random party here and there, but I don't think it was until like 2014. I actually did my college internship on his farm. Tim left. He decided he didn't want to work there anymore, and they were looking for somebody to manage the farm. So then I started working there. Like 3 weeks later, Tim came back to work there. So
that statement can be taken very loosely.
What do you mean by that?
That I decided I didn't want to work there anymore.
Oh. Well,
Anyway, continue.
Yeah, I think it was just like that. It
was a family farm situation.
Yeah,
with a lot of nuanced details.
Yeah, it was. He was onto bigger and better things, I guess. But like either way, he ended up coming
and then
back.
He was back.
Yeah. So, but it was funny because I was like supposed to be like the farm manager, and then like I worked there for like 3 weeks, and then Tim just like started showing up. I like came into work one day, and like Tim was like out mowing, and I was like, "What's going on?" So then my job like disappeared, but it didn't matter. We had like egg sandwiches every morning. We tried to be like, we always made this joke about Raleigh Farms, which is like a big beef farm down the road that like, I mean, they were owned by a very wealthy person. And so like they had no motivation or like no like real need to get anything done. So like they would have meetings every morning for like an hour where they just, sat with coffee and did like nothing. So like Tim and I would have egg sandwiches every morning. So it's like we were always trying to be
you guys
bigger.
were having a meeting.
Yeah, we were always trying to be bigger than we were.
So Casey's father worked for my parents. I don't even know how old you would have been then, or if you were born.
I don't even think I was born, actually.
Casey's father had milked, like didn't work for him full time, but like I know my parents wanted to go on vacation somewhere. So however long it was, a weekend or a week, I just know that Will milked the cows. So yeah, and then let's see, your dad is my cousin's. My cousin Greg married my cousin Kathy, and her brother is Casey's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So
wait, you got to put that back in.
All right. My aunt Missy married his uncle Greg.
Okay.
Cousin Greg.
Okay.
So then they're like, we'd
essentially be related by marriage.
Okay. Got it.
Not by blood.
Yeah. But like same thing. Like we used to go to Easter at my Aunt Missy's and my Uncle Greg's, and that was like the house that was just above Tim's right on the farm.
Okay.
So like Easter, like we would see each other and stuff, but like I really don't think like we really like spent more than a few hours together until like at least 2014.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know for the longest time that Kathy was your dad's sister.
Yeah, I think it was
in 2014. You guys were like 18 years old or 20.
Yeah, you would have been like 18, 19, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
somewhere around that age.
Okay,
Anyway,
cool.
But yeah, so I mean, even like, I don't think either of us knew it, because I remember showing up to when Greg and my Aunt Missy bought or had the house at Wilcox. I like showed up to a Christmas party or like or Christmas Eve party, and like Tim was there. I was like, never even really put it together, and then found out that we were related.
no, I remember you were there, and my sister Becky looks at him, and she's like, "Why are you here?"
Oh, okay.
Like straight up, just asked. Like, wait, we're related.
Yeah, actually, I think that was the year that I was doing the internship even. So it took a while for him and I to even realize that there was any like relationship, even if it was through marriage.
Interesting.
That's how small towns are, though.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of probably related. If we're being honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I always forget if it's 6 or 7, but I'm like 7th generation in Stanfordville. Or maybe I'm 6 and my nieces and nephews are 7th generation, but like my family's been there forever. So it's like, I mean, I'm bound to be related to like quite a few people.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, what do you remember growing up in Stanfordville, Casey? What's your earliest memory growing up there?
You know, I remember like, because I hear you ask that question a lot. Like I was kind of trying to think about it, knowing like that I was going to be doing.
Well, that's what it's funny because I do that. Because I'm like, every time I ask that, I think that. I wonder what was the earliest thing I thought of.
Well, like, so you know how like sometimes you can have memories that you don't really know if you're like, you've just been told the story so many times. So like the first like memory that I think that I have, I actually like had a pretty bad accident when I was a kid. I fell down the stairs. Like my mom had gone to pick kids up or pick my siblings up off the bus. My dad was downstairs. And like I went to go stand at the top of the stairs, and I was like waiting for my dad, and I dropped a toy, and like I leaned forward, and like I just went down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And like for some reason I can remember like reaching down to get the toy, and I can remember hearing my dad yell to someone to like call 911. And now I don't know if I've just been told that story so many times and I remember it, but like my first like true memory that I absolutely know for a fact that I truly remember was when we went to Disney, was like in like, I think it was like 1997, something like that. I was pretty young, and like I have a vivid memory of sitting there and like sitting next to Goofy, and like my mom being like, "Take a picture," and I was like freaked out. I was like, "What is going on?"
How
like,
old were you in 97?
like 6. I was born in 91, so I was like 6.
Okay.
But I was like freaked out because like I only knew like Goofy as like whatever, like a character.
Yeah.
And like all of a sudden now there's like this 6'6" like caricature like walking around, and like I'm like freaked out by him.
Yeah.
But that's for sure the first one that I know. The other one, I don't know if I've just been told it so many times that I remember it, but like it's got to be one of those two.
Got it.
What was the damage from the stair fall?
Well, you hang out with me, you know.
But I mean,
it's quite a bit.
Do you know you had stitches or?
No. So I fractured 3 of the 4 lobes in my head.
Whoa, bro.
Yeah, it was pretty
From
bad.
falling down some stairs?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was like, it wasn't like 3 steps. It was like, it was steps all the way into the basement. So it was like, I don't know, like 20 plus steps. Fell a few times.
How old were you think you there?
I was like 3.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that's like some hardcore headfirst somersaults.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I rolled like at least once or twice down, and then like I fell off the side. So then I like fell straight down like 8 feet head first.
You didn't use your hands, bro.
I know. I mean, obviously I wasn't very coordinated. I didn't try and catch myself.
I got you.
Got a break fall. Dude, total side note, you got your rut shirt on, so congrats on running your race.
Yeah.
How'd the race go?
It was great. Yeah, it was good. Felt good. Everybody did good.
How many miles?
It was like 13 and a half.
What was your pace on that?
I don't know what my pace exactly was. I finished at 3 hours and 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost made the 3 hour mark. But
did you have like a goal that you were like, when you were getting ready for the race, like preparing like where you wanted to be?
I thought it was going to be more like 3 hours and 15 minutes. So I beat that by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good race. I felt good about it.
What was the altitude you started at, and what did you peak at? Do you know?
Yeah, so like it's funny. Somebody asked me that question earlier today, and I couldn't answer all these questions. I didn't really do any research on the race this year. Like I kind of know this is my 4th year doing some version of the race. I don't know what the exact elevation gain and loss was, but
it started at the resort.
It started at the resort. We went like 3/4 up the way to the top of the mountain, and then back down, and then like halfway back up, and then back down, and then like up the complete other side, and then back down. So
right on.
it was
Some people go up
pretty intense. Oh yeah,
to the top.
Oh, like on the other races, yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean it's for a 13-mile run. It's a super hard one.
Do you like wear a watch or anything to like keep track of yourself, or you just like?
I did wear a watch, but I don't look at like the time.
Yeah,
I really don't look at the time. I look at the distance just to kind of gauge my level of effort.
Yeah,
right. And I'm like, okay, like how much distance do I have left, and how good do I feel?
Yeah,
and then I'll kind of pick up the pace based on that.
I did like I've dipped my toe into like racing a little bit, and I found that like having a watch just really helped me like not blow myself up. Like just running, like being like, all right, I know, like I did a 20K and a 40K. The 40K was like kind of cheating though. It was during COVID and it was virtual, and like you broke it up over 3 days. Okay. But like all the like the shirt whatever. And everything says 40K.
Whatever.
But like I noticed like, you know, like when you're training or like when you're running, like me personally, it helps so much to have a watch, like at least just to see like my pace or something like that, and be like, all right, like, hey, like you just pumped out a 7-minute mile, but, or, you know, you got 10 more miles to go, like maybe just like cool it down a little bit or whatever, you know, like it depends on the race or whatever. But normally like I'm prone to like anytime I run to just like blow myself up in the first X amount of miles, and then I'm just like gassed and dead right at the end. So I was just curious, like, if you...
I wear a watch. It's been a while since I've done something that like I cared so much about, that like I was trying that hard for like a specific time, if you will. But I mean, yeah, a watch is a game changer in my mind. Like a watch that has a GPS, right? And so you can like know your distance. It's a game changer. It can really like, you can manage your race. Otherwise you do get like off, you're going too slow, you're going too fast. And then one of those mistakes catches up to you usually. I try to eat, on these like longer endurance races, I try to eat like every 50 minutes. I'll eat like a little piece. I found if I go like an hour, and like usually the first hour you could go without eating, but by the time you get to the second hour, you need to eat something. And then every hour after that, you have to eat a little something.
Yeah.
That's what I've found that works for me.
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably something you just learned from like running races. I mean, like at a certain point, like a watch is obviously going to help, but like if you don't push yourself, or like if you don't do those repetitions, like you're like the watch is going to be pointless anyways. Honestly, like, because I mean, like if you're like if you don't run or you don't practice and you don't push yourself, then you never really know what your limit is to even know.
That's right.
But yeah, like I've always used Garmin watches, and like I've just been, I don't know, big fans of them. I've liked them so far.
Yeah.
You probably fucked up today, because how many miles did we do with no food? We weren't running, but I don't know. We just didn't really think about what we were going to do, and then
I have 24,000 steps for the day.
Yeah, we left it. I mean, we got on the trail at 6:30, and we got off the trail at 2:30. And there was plenty of times we were stopping, and like you were stalking for a while, but yeah, we didn't have any. I mean, no, I lied. We did have 2 dehydrated meals. We just didn't end up making them because
we had food on us. We had no, like, our plan was to like go in, like we looked at it. We were like, you know, X amount of miles. We were gonna go in like halfway up, hit the peak, and then walk back. And then like at a certain point, Tim's like, "Oh, it'd be cool if." Oh, we should just go do the whole thing. And I was like, man, it'd be cool if Mountain Mule would pick us up.
Yeah, I mean, I think like
That was what my dream was for Mountain Mule to be. Literally what it did for me today.
right.
So like,
Yeah.
just fulfilled
So we
the
ended
dream.
up hiking the whole thing, and it actually worked out because if we just did to like our plan, because I mean we started talking about it before, but for anyone who wasn't really listening, to give a recap.
And this is in an undisclosed location, very far outside of Bozeman.
Yeah. So when we started our trip.
It's on the other side of the M.
We're actually we're barely even in Montana. That's how far away we are.
Yeah. We're bouncing in and out of the Wyoming border.
Yeah, maybe even Idaho. It's
Maybe
who even knows?
It could be hard to find us. But we spent some time in the backwoods, which was great. Tim had a malfunction, found out, he didn't have a sight. And so we either could have went north to like some random shop that whatever. And we were just kind of like, you know what, like instead of going to buy a site and a Target to figure that out, we're in the backwoods. Like, let's just come back to Bozeman. Like, it'll be easier. So Tim didn't even have a boat today. So we were just going to go in quick, like maybe till like 10, 11, come out, Tim, so he could sight in his bow. And then we were going to try and go back out tonight. But like, we just had this idea to keep going. And it actually like paid off really well. We got into some mule deer. We found an elk, which was pretty cool. Found a really, really good sign, like really good bedding area on top of a drainage, which I think is pretty promising. Tim got out ahead of me a little bit and saw a monster mule deer at 30 yards, Murphy's Law.
As I said, Murphy's Law, I will get a perfect shot on something because I didn't have my bow.
Yeah.
And Casey got on some mule deer and he was going to set up and stalk to them. I needed to get to the other trailhead to meet Mountain Mule Transportation.
Uh-huh.
So I said, I'll just go. I'll get picked up, go get our truck from the other trailhead, come back. And then on my way out, I'm like, I'm not running, but I'm walking fast and I've got at least 30 pounds in my pack. And I'm like looking at my phone, checking Onyx, see how far out I am. And I just have this feeling. You get this feeling when something's looking at you.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. And I look up and there's this beautiful mule deer, like 30 yards. And just about enough time to, I took my phone up and I'm like, I'll just take a picture of me. Took a few steps. And then I was like, I'm not even going to take a picture of so I marked a pin for Casey and then went to send it to him, and I didn't have signal anymore. So
I got it on the way back. I got a text and I looked at it and the pin is giant mule deer. I was like, awesome. But I mean, I had a pretty good, like some of the best hunts that I've had, I've never harvested an animal, but like today was like, we've had some pretty rough luck. But today was like great. We were hoofing it back and I like stopped. I was like, oh crap, Tim, like mule deer right there. Like looks like a pretty decent one. We're like, oh man, that's a good one. And we're like, oh, we got to go meet Miles. Like whatever, like, let's just keep going. We get going. And Tim's like, oh, there's a second one right there. So we like get looking, we're like looking up and like, Tim's like, if you want, I'll go meet Miles. I'll grab the truck, whatever. He just told you the story. So like, I like sat down behind a tree and Tim walks off. And like in my head the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, so if those deer see Tim walk off, they're going to settle in because they just saw us walk in. Yeah. Now Tim walks away. The threat is gone. Worked out exactly how I wanted it to. I watched him I watched him feed for a little while and I just sat there the whole time, took my pack off, just like got comfortable for a little bit. There was 2 mule deer, both of them bucks. One of them was pretty decent. The one that was bedded was significantly nicer. Like I was like, that's definitely the one if I can do it. And so they like just crested over the hill and like I get all the way to the top of the hill right where they were. And like I look out and they're like, I don't know, like maybe like 80 yards, but like in front of me, it like kind of dips down and then comes back up. So I get on that and I like range find them. It was like 40 yards. And I'm like, all right, like I've said, like I've trained like 60, like 40.
And you're walking at this point.
Mm-hmm, yep. And so
essentially
like,
stalking.
Yeah, stalking. But like, so I was like, all the time I was like, 40 yards, like that's going to be right in the wheelhouse. And then I was like, oh man, like that was 40 on an elk. Like there's a mule deer. It's a bit of a size difference. But then like, finally, by the time I like talked myself out of it, like I moved, like I was clipped on and like I went to go move and one of them caught the movement. And like, I kind of just like tipped my head down like that just to like kind of break my face up with the brim of the hat. And I like noticed like a red T-post. I was like, man, that's so weird. Like, why is there a red T-post right here? Like, I'm just like looking. And then like the mule deer like went off, like just stayed right there. Just like didn't pay any mind to me. So I like kind of nestled down. I like pull Onyx out that is the boundary. Those deer are on
Fucking
private.
dude.
Those deer are on private property, and I was on public land, and I was like, what? I was like, perfect, like, of course. But I mean, it was a great experience. Like, I mean, like, it's not every day that you get to like try and stalk mule deer in Montana.
So let's just say you didn't have Onyx
oof,
in your pocket.
yeah.
What would happen?
You know, I would like to say that I would have sat there and thought about it long enough.
Probably just would have done it.
I would have slung an arrow, I think, maybe. But
'Cause
that's
you
like,
wouldn't have.
but like,
yeah.
it would have been bad because
Mhm.
like I was so focused on the deer coming up. The red T-post was from media away, and I didn't see it until like I tried to hide my face,
Mhm.
and then like all of a sudden it got put together. And if it was like, and I can see how the mistake gets made too, because like,
of course, like how if you
and
if
like,
you know the
well,
T-post.
what makes it bad is it says boundary line, but it's faced towards private property. The boundary, like, it should say boundary and be faced towards public, and like nobody posts anything out here, so it's just a red random T-post, and it's just like, by luck I saw it. I mean, honestly, like, you're
like, I'm standing on the wrong side of this thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if you're, I see like how Onyx now is like, I mean, in New York, I hunt a lot of private land. Never really saw the use for it, but I had it anyways. All my friends had it. You know, if I would go out Western New York to hunt with a few people out there property, I wasn't sure what they could send me pins. Like, it was simple, but like,
now you see the purpose of
out
it.
here, it's like complete game changer. And I mean, like in a world where, you're hunting 20,000 acres, like, are the odds that you shoot that animal on private, like, could you get it back public quick enough where nobody, maybe, but like, that's not a risk I was willing to take.
Yeah.
Especially out here, I feel like, I'll end up in prison for like a week.
Yeah, and what's crazy is the way that I always understand it is, if you shoot something that runs on a private land, what you're supposed to do is contact the landowner, get permission, and they can say no.
Yeah, that's how it is in New York too.
I was talking to a guy, and he was like, he just doesn't shoot animals even near a property line.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't, because if they run 60, 80, 100 yards, and now it's not on, it's on somebody else's piece of property. He's like, I'm fucked.
Yeah, it just kind of becomes a circus at that point. I mean, like, there's always the idea it's supposed to be like, I think it's like 50 feet, or maybe it's more than that. Your tree stand's supposed to be off the property line to begin with. Well, at least in New York, and I might be wrong, don't quote me on that number, but there's supposed to be like a neighborly distance anyway, so that way you're not hunting your neighbor's deer. But yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of times where like people set up right on the property line, they shoot, and then the deer like end up on our property, and like, if they don't call, like, it's just a safety hazard. I mean, like, state land, I mean, it's massive out here. It's like, I can't comprehend the amount of ground that I was looking at, like where we were previous to where we set up this morning. Like, my mind couldn't fathom it. Like, to the furthest peak, it was like 15 miles or something like that. And so we were like 15 square miles.
It's all yours, buddy.
Yeah. That's crazy. But,
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes a circus when like deer run over to property lines, and then especially like if they don't ask or somebody doesn't ask, then it's like you don't know who's hunting on that property. It's just a really big safety issue. Because like if you shoot a deer, you come on my property and I'm shooting and I'm hunting, and then all of a sudden I hear a rustle in the woods, like if I don't take enough time, I just see movement, shoot, like all of a sudden there's a big accident.
Yeah.
So I mean, that not exactly, but there was an accident similar to that. It was actually with a DEC officer a number of years ago. I don't know if you were still in New York, maybe you had just left, but there was a DEC officer DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation.
Okay.
It's like your fishing game out here. But like there was known poaching to be in progress, and he even says to this day he has no idea why he did it, but he decided to crawl through through the hedgerow on his hands and knees.
The officer did?
Yeah, to try and sneak up on these people. And he was crawling through his hands and knees.
Bro.
And there was a wounded deer. The people who were poaching knew there was a wounded deer. They saw him thinking it was a deer. Low light situation, shot him. He's paralyzed for the rest of his life.
You would think the officer would have thought that through.
Yeah, he even says like to this day he has no idea what like possessed him to crawl on his hands and knees like that, especially in a low light situation. But it just like those people weren't supposed to be there, and they were just like cowboying it along. And so it's like I mean, accidents happen every day,
Yeah.
I'll tell you that like that situation that Casey just said with the property boundary. In the same situation with the DC officer. When you get in those situations, if you're anywhere near, like, you're gonna shoot an animal. And I'm sure it's the same if you're an officer and you're about to arrest these people and they have weapons. Your adrenaline kicks in.
Yeah. You're not making clear decisions.
The reason, like, that type of reason does not exist.
Yeah.
Because you have, like, I don't know, it's a weird situation because you literally will not have memory of so many of that because you're not thinking in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know.
It's like you lost yourself.
Yeah. Because you haven't done any big game hunting, have you?
No.
But you're going to this year?
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like, you'll see the feeling that comes over you. You won't be able to explain it. But if you're going to be rifle hunting and you put those crosshairs up on that deer, you will start to wonder why your heart just starts beating out of you. Yeah. And it's like, it's the weirdest thing, man, but it's such a primal thing. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah. But, like, you don't. So that's why you need to, like, kind of have your shit dialed. Like, you know where you're hunting, you know it's safe, you know it's where you're supposed to be.
And you're trying to set yourself up to make good decisions.
Yeah, and everyone else, like, that's why everyone wears orange during gun season because
it's just in your mind.
I swear your mind can trick you into anything's a deer. And we were
like
we were the first morning we were taking down our bag of food, we're hanging out of the tree. I, like, turn and look and I see, like, a big white stump and I, like, stop. I think it's an elk. And my heart starts beating. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, well, I'm glad we got that out of the way because it just happens all day long. Your mind's like, is that an elk? Is that an elk? Is that an elk? And everything. Like,
yeah, especially when you're like, you're telling yourself all you're looking for is elk. And then, like, you just it happened to me today when I was walking. I, like, found a bunch of beds. There was, like, crap everywhere. And I'm just walking and, like, through a pine tree, like, there's 2 branches and, like, I see something that's, like, big and black, and I'm like, oh man, I'm like, barely even the right color. Like, elk aren't even black, and I'm like my heart's already starting to race. I'm like, oh man, I know they're right here. Like, I had just seen one,
and
I'm like, oh man, like, I'm sorry, and, like, sure enough, like, I start sneaking around, and, like, it's where a tree, like a massive tree, like, had leadered off. The one must have broken. They cut it. So, like, it was like 5 foot off the ground, but it was just cut off, and it was actually like a tree stump.
Yeah,
and I'm like, idiot, like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. It's honestly scary though. Your mind, like,
plays tricks on you.
Literally plays tricks on you.
Like, not hunting related at all, but I don't know if you guys, like, George Floyd riots, like, let's not talk about that part, but like, during when those were going on, they were talking about, like, what is going on through police officers' mind, and they were talking about police training, and there's a training that they invite, I don't remember where it is. I wanted to say it was in San Francisco, and they ended up, like, getting rid of it, and then it, like, kind of bounced around to a few different major cities, but, like, you were allowed to walk through this, like, abandoned house, and, like, you would go through and, like, you would have a gun, and, like, they would give you your targets, who you had to shoot, this, that, the other thing. And, like, most of the time they'd be like, your target's going to be in the second room with a red shirt. And, like, 9 times out of 10 people shot the wrong person. And, like, it was obviously, like, different police academies were putting this on, like, for a Back the Blue movement. But it was just to show everybody, like, how, like, they were, like, getting everybody, like, get their adrenaline going and see how well your decision making is, to, like, give some sympathy towards the cops. But it is the same idea. Or, like, they would go through the entire thing even without a weapon, and they'd be like, okay, here you go, here's your test. It's like, first room, what did you see? Nothing. Second room, what did you see? And, like, very descriptive things. Like, in some of the walkthrough mazes and stuff, they'd put people like Kevin Costner, or, like, like, really famous people that, like, if you saw them, you should know who they are.
Yeah.
And, like, people would see them, and, like,
they wouldn't recognize them.
Yeah, they'd be like, oh, that was just some guy. And they're like, oh no, that was actually a famous actor. And, like, people's adrenaline just, like, it, like, makes you, like, black out.
Yeah, makes sense.
What do you or Cole have a special mule deer tag somewhere?
What's that?
What do you and Cole have for tags?
Cole only has a tag.
What did he get? Just a deer tag?
He has a deer tag, and I think he has an elk tag.
Okay. I thought he's had like a special draw mule deer tag or something.
I don't know.
Huh. You didn't get any tags?
Mm-mm.
Why not?
I wasn't able to.
You still can.
Oh, well, can I?
You can still get your general license.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can, what he would have applied for, he applied for trophy zones. You can only do that 1 month.
Okay.
There's 1 month. There's a window from, like, the 1st of April till the end of April.
Yeah, it sounds right.
But you could go get your general license
okay.
now. And you'll get, as a resident, you should get a general deer and a general elk. And you'll have both.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize that.
And we just so happen to find an excellent place to general mule deer hunt.
Yeah, I'll tell you about
Sounds
it.
like it.
Off air.
Off air.
As long as you don't mind driving 4 hours, it's the spot to be.
Mm.
Anyway,
Cool.
so Casey, what was it like growing up in Stanfordville?
I think I kind of started. I mean,
No, you got siblings. Are you the youngest?
yeah, I'm the youngest. Older brother Willie, then older is Jenny, and the oldest is Mindy.
Okay.
I think there's like Willie's 2 years older than me. Jenny and Willie are, I think, 1 year apart, and Jenny and Mindy are 2 years apart. I'm sure that's not right, but it feels right.
They're Irish twins.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
If it's under 12 months,
it's
then
not under. It's like you say a year just because I think it's like probably like 14 or 16 months. So
Mhm.
like half the year they're 1 year apart or
Yeah.
whatever. But
sometimes we get very specific answers on that. I don't know who did this, but they're like,
Oh yeah.
13
like
months,
14, yeah.
13
Yeah.
months and 17 months from this one. I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, I can figure it out.
roughly.
The only I don't know why I remember my brother. I mean, his birthday September 1st, but I know he's born in '88. I was June 24th, '91. So I mean, I could figure it out, but I just
Checks out.
Yeah.
So what was that like? What was it like with your siblings? How abusive were they?
I mean, me and
How
my
abusive was Willie?
yeah, me and my brother, we had some fights. That's for sure. I don't know. I mean, I guess it was mostly all sibling rivalry. I mean, even now, I mean, him and I still like. I mean, it's not as physically abusive, but like we still have rivalries. I mean, like anytime we're shooting together, or anytime we're hunting, it's always like who shoots better. Who,
It's probably big with hunting too. Who shoots a bigger deer?
Yeah, I will say, like my brother is he's a pretty accomplished archery hunter. He goes out to Illinois every year. I always call him Mr. Mossy Oak. Like I'm like the Ted Nugent of the family. Like I don't know if you know, Ted Nugent is just like God bless every hunter. God bless whatever you want to shoot, you shoot it. And like my brother's like, it has to be 5.5. And I'm like, looked 3.5, and it's like a 2.5-year-old deer. And I'm like, yeah, I think it was 3.5.
So how does that make a Mr. Mossy Oak?
Just like everything is about managing deer to him, which is like that's great for him, and like I can understand like the idea, but it just like score matters a lot with him. Like the total inches of a deer like really matter. And I will say, like actually within the last like few years, in his defense, that's really like it has shifted a little bit. But at the end of the day, like him, me, like my father, all of us, like at the end of the day, we're going for a mature animal. Like that's the goal. Like even like when I was hunting the mule deer today, like I was looking at the two, like the smaller one was actually a little bit closer. And I mean, with a gun, I could have gotten it easily. But like when I first started, like when Tim and I first split up, they were pretty far out. I mean, I don't think I could have shot either of them. I know I couldn't have shot either of them with a bow, but like I still would have waited for the other one to stand up. But like the idea about a mature animal is, making sure it's lived a life, enough of a good life, I guess. But the biggest thing is about breeding. Like if they live too long, there's not going to be any gene diversity within a herd, and it actually makes the herd health go down. So you actually like if you have a buck breeds with a doe, and then that offspring, like that buck breeds with that offspring. Now you're line breeding. And so the genetics are going down. So like normally with whitetail, you want to, anything over 3.5, they've kind of like, one, they're a more mature deer, they're bigger antlers, but like they've kind of like done their job in terms of breeding. I mean, there's does that live a little bit longer, but I mean, I'm sure somebody will correct me on it, but I think, once and even like elk and anything, like a mature animal is all I'm really after. I mean, I'll shoot a raghorn, like just a nasty, like, 7-pointer, but like if it's 3.5, like I'm good with that.
But do you know the average lifespan of a whitetail? Like 7 or 8 is like a very old deer.
Yeah, I think 7, 8. I think if if humans weren't involved, it would be a little bit older. But I would say in New York, it's maybe like 2.5, 3.5 for like a male. I don't even know if it'd be 2.5. Like to find a 3.5-year-old male, especially in Dutchess County, is pretty hard. So maybe like a 1.5 to 2.5. I bet you would be probably average male. And then does maybe a little bit longer. But I think if there's no human interference, I think it is like 8 or 9, but their teeth will start to fall out depending on like the area that they are in and like the type of food that they're eating.
Yeah, from what I understand, and this is like, there's probably a bias behind this, but a deer that dies a natural death will most likely die a much kind of more horrific, miserable death than if it's hunted. Because it will most likely get like, it'll get so old that it'll be beat up and kind of outfought by all the younger bucks. And like, it'll probably get injured fighting during the rut. And then like, whether like out here, you know, a bear, wolves can get it, and like, or it'll die by disease, you know, like a slow, painful, like a real Mother Nature death. Essentially it being shot is the most like, I don't know.
If it's a humane,
it's the most.
If the delivery of the shot is humane, it is. I mean, especially archery, like with a gun, there's a percussion. The animal like knows something bad happened. With archery, most of the time they don't even know you're there. And I mean, like that's kind of one of the reasons. I think it's a little bit more intimate. That's one of the reasons why I really like archery hunting. But like, my father shot a 10-pointer a few years back, and it was like a old mature deer. That thing was so light. Like I carried it out. I threw it on my shoulder like as if it was a fawn because it had been beaten up and it got beat and it was wounded. And so everything else was just picking on it. It couldn't like, you know, get to food. Like it couldn't feed the way that it wanted to. And like Mother Nature is nasty. Like we talked about it. Like you really have to respect Mother Nature. And like it doesn't go just for us. Like it goes for them too. I mean, like, in the most horrific way possible. Like for an animal to be chased by coyotes for 2 hours, taken down at the hocks, and then like basically like killed alive. Like the first thing the alpha does, it eats the ass out and then eats the liver because that's the most nutrient dense. Like that's how it happens. And like that's same with wolves. Like they always I don't know why they eat the ass out first, but
why not, you know?
Yeah. That's pretty big trend nowadays.
We finally caught on.
Yeah, we did finally. Everybody
Son
seems
of a
to be. But yeah, they'll eat the ass out, and like half the time the animal's still alive. They don't care. I mean, they only know to kill. That's what they're here for. And then, liver. The alpha always gets the liver because it's the most nutrient dense organ in the body. And like sometimes the animals are still alive. You see, like I don't know if you on Instagram, like this page, Nature is Metal. That's like. If you want a good idea on what's going on out there, that's serious.
Nature is Metal.
Oh, you've never seen that?
No.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I wonder if Mountain Meal follows that because I'm on Instagram, but I can log onto my PC and get on there.
Honestly, I'm still on MySpace. I think.
Yeah.
I have some social medias, but I haven't done anything. I think the last post I ever had on Instagram might have been when I came out to Montana. Maybe I had one after that. Like the first time when I brought you out to Montana.
Time for a throwback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who's speaking about this, but they've shot elk before, you know, during rut or post rut. So all the bulls are fighting. And they'll go to butcher this animal and there'll be these giant like gouges or things full of pus, like literally where they're getting horns. Just know, literally horns, antlers. They're not horns, they're antlers. Driven like through the side of them, like, you know, through the hind quarter, just anywhere, like just gouged by antlers.
And that's the thing too, like there's not like a referee like, oh, like, okay, good. No, that bull, that buck, whatever it is now that it's injured, you're taking full advantage because he wants to be the top dog. He wants all the ladies, like whatever it is, even everything, all the way from turkeys, like it doesn't matter. If an animal fights during some sort of mating or breeding season, they will take full advantage of a wounded animal.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild. Anyway, brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
a lot of
we're
tangent.
completely.
I don't know if it's because I have ADHD or if I'm just stuck on hunting. But
all good.
Yeah,
we're on a.
Okay, brother, sisters, oldest sister is Mindy. She's married, 3 kids.
Where she live?
She lives in Stanfordville as well. Like my whole family is real close. But she lives like 5 minutes down the road. My brother, he's in Stanfordville as well. 2 kids, Jenny, and then Jenny, she lives a little bit further away. She's got 2 kids. I think when we're all together, there's like 17 of us, I think.
Where do you live right now?
I live in Stanfordville.
Okay,
Like everybody except
Okay.
Jenny lives in Stanfordville. The piece of property, the reason why I bought it, it actually borders my parents' property.
Okay.
So like when I work with the family, build fences, like I don't even touch pavement when I go to work in the morning. Like I just like go right over the hill, right to the shop. So it's pretty nice. I mean, like it's always been like a really nice piece of property to grow up on. It was an old gravel bank. And somehow like it wasn't vested. So when the gravel bank went out of business, like my father bought it, it still had like, it looked like an active gravel bank.
Okay.
He spent a lot of years like reshaping it. You'd never know what it was. We built a few ponds on the property. We've stocked them and stuff. So like, I mean, plus there's a lake just down the road we'd always fish in and stuff. We always had like field cars. I'll never forget it. I had a 1989 Honda Prelude that I like spray painted an 01 on the side because Dukes Hazards. And then like I started putting like all of like Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s sponsors like in like the back windows. It says Bud. Like so I took duct tape and wrote Bud like in the back windows everywhere. But like field cars, we literally romped through the fields. We like basically bumpered cars with them. Like my brother had an old Mercury Sable. We were just like slamming into each other with them. Dirt bikes, four-wheelers, like nothing was ever fast enough. You could never jump high enough. It was
sounds
fun.
like a lot of fun.
I'll tell you a story I remember, and then you can tell Kyle about this because this is a cool thing to talk about. So Casey would do these Woodsman competitions. Essentially, it's like you're competing to be a lumberjack.
Yeah.
I remember one. He had some sort of party, like I don't know if you were like college age. It was a college party, and like we'll go over there. We're all underage. We're drinking, hanging out, and he's got these like $400 axes and just chopping down these little like saplings and small trees and stuff. I'm like, hey, here, try this. And he's like, you got to put the chaps on though. You got to put the chaps on. I'm like, this guy.
I need the fucking chaps.
But I put them on, and he's like showing me like, slice it like this and that. And like it'll be like 2 and it'll be done.
And you're drinking.
Yeah, and I'm like 19.
The
so
perfect
I'm like,
scenario.
Like binge
chainsaw.
like
drinking.
Binge drinking.
Sure.
And this is just an axe. This isn't a chainsaw.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like, and he's just showing me like, oh, if you chop it like this, like it'll be like 1 or 2, and like this thing's gonna go down. First one I hit it, like slides off the tree right into my shin, just smokes my shin. I have the chaps on. It probably would have cut.
Oh,
it
definitely would have. It definitely. I mean, it would have been straight to bone.
Like I just remember that. I was like, ooh, like I was like, I just got really sober.
Yeah, so
and
like
I'm really blacked out right now.
It actually, so what they're called chainmail, to be perfectly like technical about it. And so they'd go up like just below your knee with the old like fireplace grate, like that metal, and then like on your feet and on your toes is like chain, like actual medieval chainmail. And yeah, like there's a lot of stuff where like people who don't wear it, they'll cut right to bone, like right through their foot. Some people, like I know people who wear chainmail, cut through their shoe, they hit their foot. Luckily, like the chainmail stops it, but then like people still break bones because they're hitting so hard, like full bruises, everything.
That just reminded me of, but I want you to tell Kyle about the Woodsman competition. I was drilling something and the drill bit slipped off. It went in front of my steel toe, so it went through my boot, and the bit went between my big toe and my next toe, and like just made a little red mark. Like it was like I like that drill bit could have like because it went straight through my boot, like a little bit through the sole. Like why it didn't go through my whole foot, I don't know.
Yeah,
but anyway,
yeah.
Tell me about the Woodsman. How you got into that?
Yeah, so it would be like the Steel Timber Sports Series. Like it was super popular in the 90s. Basically, like everything is a competition who can do it faster. And you're like cutting logs with axes, or hot saws is always like the fan favorite, which is basically like dirt bike engines or like snowmobile motors and stuff.
Or like small block Chevys.
Yeah, I mean, not so much in this competition, but people do it.
Yeah.
There are some, like, I think the regulations for the Steel Series is 1 cylinder. It has to be 1 cylinder. But, like, I started out in college. I mean, there are some high school teams that have it, but I started out in college.
This is a sport in upstate New York.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, technically, it's a sport around the country. Yeah. It's actually a sport around the world. I
was just saying people should know that the sport goes on in upstate New York. If you ever have a misconception of what New York might be like.
Yeah. We have professional athletes in upstate New York is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and they're not all drinkers. But they
mostly are.
Yeah, pretty much. The Steel Timber Sports Series, like the best athletes come out of the Northeast, and then there's just like a really deep rooted history of it in West Virginia. So like all the best athletes come out of the Northeast, West Virginia.
Shout out to West Virginia.
What do you
No,
got?
I'm just saying, dude. Like, hey, shout out to the people on the West Coast. You might want to pick this sport up and see
Cal Poly,
yeah.
right? They used to have a team that was like pretty legit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's a whole United States series. They do 5 regions or whatever, but it really kind of stinks because like I've started to notice in my life all the stuff that I find is really fun is like slowly like in a downward trend, like archery hunting and this as well. Like in the 90s, like the steel.
Do you think archery hunting is?
Yeah, I think in a general sense, it's like overall it's on a downhill trend.
I feel like people like Cam Haynes and John Dudley have just blown it up.
I think that they have a better platform to talk about it. I don't think that means that there's more. I think there's more archery hunters, I guess, or more, hardcore archery hunters. But I bet you if you pulled up a map, speaking of Cam Haynes, listening to his podcast, he had one of the reps from Hoyt. I forget his name though. And he talks about like how selling bows is one of the hardest things you could do, because not only do you need to have a successful bow company, it's hours of innovation and just like figuring out how to make sure the bow is going to work properly. But like no archery hunter is okay with what was there last year. So every year they need to come out with a new model, something different. Everybody needs to have the next best thing. Everything's changing. But overall, like there's been like some blips up, and like, people like John Dudley and Joe Rogan starting to bow hunt, and Cam Haynes like has like kept like those little blips up and down. But like on a 10-year trend, it's slowly down. But like the Timber Sports Series, super popular in the 90s, early 2000s. Like I actually remember watching it on ESPN. It's I think it still is, but
I do remember watching this.
It is actually the longest running program on ESPN other than the Bassmaster Classic. So like it's been around forever. It's just nobody's ever heard of it. But I mean, it's cool. It was a lot of fun to do when
What's
I did
the one when you climb the tree?
Pole climb.
It's very cool to watch.
Yeah, no, I've watched them on TV. They look a lot, and they're a lot of fun.
There's one when you're standing on the log.
Yeah, that underhand chop.
Yeah, it's very. I don't know. It's cool. It's like a very.
Yeah, underhand chop, like any of the chops, like underhand chop, which is you're literally standing on a block cut in half the fastest. Standing block chop, which is like it's supposed to replicate like felling a tree, like what we were trying to show Tim. So the block is like upright vertical, and then hot saw, and then springboard, which is like you make a pocket in the pole, you throw a board in, jump up on the board, next one up, and then you're cutting at 9 feet, or well, the block's 9 feet, but you're cutting suspended in air on a piece of wood. But like all of those events replicate something. Like back when they used to cut down redwoods, the trunk flare was way too big. So if they got above the trunk flare, it was less wood to cut. And back when they were using axes and hand saws and everything else. So, that was replicating that. The entire sport is based around replicating, logging techniques, which was pretty cool. It's a deep rooted history.
Yeah.
That's like the cool same thing with rodeo.
Yeah.
Like rodeos, because they would, they just herd the cattle, rope the cattle, etc. And then they were like, hey, I wonder who can do it the fastest. And just like exact same way that thing was built out of that.
That's how a lot of that stuff. It was like a, I don't know, pissing contest, I guess. Like that's how,
or just like entertainment, right?
That's but that's literally how like timber sports as a competition started. Is like, you have like these groups of men who are in the backwoods
and women.
I mean,
son of a bitch.
Yeah,
a couple of them.
Listen, I mean, I don't know how many women were cutting trees down in the 1800s. Today, there's a lot of women. I'll make that argument. But back then, I think the guys had a little bit of a stronghold on the industry. But anyway, so men and women being in the backwoods in the cabin, like they were sitting around the campfire, and what else was there to do? Like, oh, I bet you I can throw this axe further than you.
Right.
Oh, I bet you our team can cut more trees down than you tomorrow. Stuff like that.
Yeah. I gotta use the head of bareback.
Hit it up. So what was your fastest tree climb?
I think it was I could average like about 11 feet a second. So like if I was going up to like a pole and
What's
like
the highest the poles are?
anywhere between, some of them are 90. I never climbed down 90s, but I climbed down like 40s and 50s.
Jesus Christ, that's high.
Yeah. I think Hayward, Wisconsin has a big competition, and I'm pretty sure those ones are 90. And those ones are speed climb up and speed climb down. In college, when I was doing pole climb, like it was just a speed climb up. But those were like 40 and 60 feet. But I could average like about 11 feet a second.
So what's the technique of how you're climbing? What gear are you using?
Basically what they use to, like an arborist. Like if an arborist showed up at your house to climb a tree, to like cut it down for you, it'd be the same thing. Same, belts, same gaff, same rope, and everything is like, everything's together. Like your right arm and your right leg are connected, and your left arm and your left leg are connected. So like everything, when you're throwing up, like everything's like working in unison.
I got you. I kind of want to ask. I want to wait till Kyle's back to ask you this question. So I got to think of another question.
Great.
What's the most expensive piece of Woodsman equipment you bought?
Well, I mean, I guess a hot saw. Like I had a Suzuki 250, and the bar and chain, everything like pushes a little over 3,000. But like Dennis Cahoon, who's in California, I think, I might not be right. Anyways, Dennis Cahoon makes saws, and he's like $7,000 for a saw. And like some of his like higher end saws go for like 10 grand. Like there's saws out there made completely, most of them are aluminum, but there's saws out there completely made of carbon fiber to be like a little bit lighter, to try and be a little bit faster. But after that, then it's like a single buck saw or a 2-man saw are normally around like 2,500, 2,800, sometimes 3,000. All this stuff comes from like, there's no real good American saw makers anymore. I mean, Paul Vinegar was doing it for a little while, which, I mean, some of that information isn't relevant. But at any rate, so there's a pretty good American saw maker, but a lot of this stuff comes from New Zealand and Australia. That's where like the sport has erupted. That's where the best athletes come from.
Where are the steels made?
It's all tool steel, and it's dependent, but I'm pretty sure I don't know if they import it in, but I think it's just also made in. It's just a high grade tool steel.
No, still the brand.
Germany.
Germany. Okay. Because that you said that's who puts these on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought you were thinking. I was asking.
Yeah, I thought you said steel.
Can you make a career out of this or no?
There's like a few guys actually. If you look up Matt Koger, he's sponsored by Red Bull, so he's like an official Red Bull athlete. I think he's kind of doing it. And I think like maybe one or two other athletes are kind of making a living. I think at a certain point in time, I think Matt was even working at like Gander Mountain, like part-time, like, cause it's like the ultimate hobbyist sport. It's kind of like almost like an Olympic athlete, except if you win a gold, you don't get all the endorsements at the end. So
maybe you could just have a really good YouTube channel and you can make money off that.
Yeah. And there are like a few people who have like, there's a girl who's like started to really involve social media. I think she's like started to see that outlet. And I think that's really, between sponsorships and like social media, that's really the only way you're going to be able to make it work.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like kind of what campaigns did though, because you can have you can turn your passion into your income if you get the right social media following. Yeah. Okay. The question I wanted to ask you when Kyle got back is, what's the worst injury you've seen in the timber sports? I don't even know if I want to hear the answer.
Why'd you ask then, dude?
Because I just want to know.
I haven't, like, do you mean in person or like pictures? Like
in person, yeah. Or just the craziest thing you've seen.
There was, well, it was very unfortunate, but there was a few years ago, a collegiate athlete was doing standing block and he cut and a chip fell out off the block and he went to run around, because standing block, you have to cut both sides of the block, and he went to go run around. He slipped on the chip and he cut like his whole arm open with the axe, like right down to tendons and everything. Yeah. There's some like when you got sharp objects and you're running around.
That's what I figured. It's a dangerous sport.
Yeah. And like, I think that's the catch of a lot of it is like when people really watch it, it's like, the idea of like how dangerous it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, logging is dangerous. Logging always was dangerous. So it's like, it's just kind of shedding a light on how dangerous that thing can be.
Yeah. I mean, at least it's a somewhat controlled setting.
Yeah. And I mean, it is controlled, but even like in the most controlled things or most controlled settings, things can, accidents happen.
I mean, I worked for a guy for a while and we were clearing trees, and it's like back to respecting Mother Nature. Like, those trees can kill you fast.
Yeah.
And like, they're just so big and there's so much torque and there's so much power.
Yeah. I did a course, it was called Game of Logging. And there's 1, 2, and 3. And a lot of times, like, it's basically like chainsaw safety. It teaches you how to cut down trees, whatever. Like in the middle of the course, the guy was giving a demonstration on how to cut down a dead tree. And this is like the worst case scenario, but I mean, professional logger, so it helped. But he's a professional logger, and he's cutting a tree down, and there's like 8 or 9 of us, and he's like showing us how to cut down this tree. And he like starts to get into it, and he recognizes the center of his hollow. And like, he's just like recognized it, and he like kind of had everybody get back. Had he not recognized that, the tree basically grenaded on him. As he was cutting his notch and he was doing his back cut, the whole thing splintered, and like there was a very loud eruption. Like, bark actually like just flew everywhere. And like, had he not actually known what he was doing, it could have been very bad. But it was like, honestly, like worst case scenario to have happen in front of people, because then it was like, oh crap, now he's got to go do another tree to show us how to cut down. But
or best though, just to show you how really dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, there was quite a few people after who were like, definitely a little more cautious about like picking your chainsaw up and stuff. But yeah, I mean, like there's always like 100 videos online of like, you see people like having trees basically grenade on them, or they fall the wrong way or whatever. There's always that really funny video of somebody dropping a tree on a house, but like they didn't intend for that to happen. So more than likely it went the wrong way,
Okay, I want to ask you 2 questions because I want to ask you about what you studied in school. But first, I want to ask you how many fence posts you think you've put in the ground in your life.
I don't. I couldn't even imagine. I think on a pretty good year, there's about, I think it's like 625 sections to a mile. Sections about 8 feet. We'll do like over 20 miles of fence a year, but that also includes wire, and those posts are spread out like 40 feet apart. So it'd be a little hard to figure out unless I really went back. But I will say in like, I think it was like 2008, there was a guy who used to paint fence for my father, and he figured out that he painted enough fence in the time that he worked for my father to start in New York to paint fence straight down to the tip of Florida and be on his way back to North Carolina. And that was in 2005.
Just on distance of fence.
Just on distance of fence. And granted, some fences get painted like every like 5-6 years you repaint a fence. So he's painting the same fences multiple times. But I mean, he's since retired and no longer doing it for my father. But I mean, he painted.
What kind of fences are we talking about?
Mostly board fence. Horse, like equine is really popular. Just like post and 3 or 4 board. It's like, that's, I mean, we live in horse country. I mean, we really do. I mean, there's a lot of people who.
So 2 verticals, 3 horizontals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, we do like wire fence and deer fence and everything else. But yeah, that's our biggest thing. I mean, there's a lot of people who came out of the city, a lot of like people who are a lot more well off, and they didn't want to smell cows all the time. And so New York State made horses livestock, so then you get ag exemptions when you had horse farms. And then the other thing is, then they have the farm, and then they do polo, and then now all of a sudden they have a business for a tax write-off, and they spend $1 million a year on a polo team, and they get all these tax write-offs. So
okay,
but I can tell you it's good for business. So
yeah. Oh yeah. What did you study in school? What's your degree?
So my associate's degree is ag technology and animal science concentrated in dairy. My bachelor's is ag business, like in ag economics. So
where'd you go to college?
I started out at Alfred State, which is in started out in Alfred State. Well, you didn't want any before.
All to men.
Western New York, Alfred State. And then I went to SUNY Cobleskill for my bachelor's.
Where's that?
That's like southwest of Albany, by like 45 minutes.
Got it.
What's that statistic about Cobleskill?
There's probably a lot.
What's the one that I think you know that I'm thinking of?
I don't know.
About the STDs?
They probably have it. If you're wondering, they probably have it.
So there's one of the highest schools in the state for STDs. I don't know how they find this.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how. That was like the rule of thumb. Like whenever we were like out. I mean, I was dating somebody when I was there, but luckily I was safe. But that was the rule of thumb. It's like if you think they have it, they probably do.
Anyway.
Yeah, they. I don't know.
Sorry,
There's not much to do there.
Continue on your degree.
That was it. That was the whole degree.
Yeah. Do you have any more? Kyle, you've always got dairy questions and ag questions, so maybe he could give you a.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
false
I'm curious why you went after like the focus in dairy. Were you like before you were doing fences, you were interested in becoming a dairy farmer?
Yeah, I mean, actually, so my father grew up a dairy farmer and then started building fences and had cows. He pretty much got rid of the cows. I was very young when he got rid of the cows. So like any of my experiences, like really farming with cows was on somebody else's farm. And there was just something like very wholesome about it. Like the connection that you'd make with the animals.
Sorry to interject.
Yeah.
This is the statistic I remember. And I don't know if you know this or not, but like from what I understood, it was in either the 70s or the 80s in that county that we grew up in, which is like roughly like 350,000 people. There was over 400 dairy farms. This was like 70s or 80s, so just very common for a lot of dairy farms up there. And now I think there's 10.
Yeah, last I knew there was, and I could be wrong, but I thought it was only like 5 now.
I think if you think of all the ones in Hudson Valley Fresh, I think there's 10.
Yeah, but that's not Dutchess County though.
Oh, you could be right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I think if you just figure out Dutchess County, it's less than 5. But anyway,
yes, everyone had a dairy farm. It was just so common.
Okay, got it. So, let's get into fencing real quick. I'm serious, right? Because I think a lot of people think like, okay, so you could be like on the surface, people are like, okay, like there's nothing to building a fence. This can't be that interesting, right?
It's pretty much not.
And what I refuse to believe that, right? Meaning like, I think anything.
You're a denier.
I am a denier. I think anything can be interesting. So like you built a fuck ton of fence, right? Okay. So let's talk about like, you're going to go build a fence on somebody's piece of property. Walk me through the thought process. Like how do you estimate the job? How do you actually?
Well, Tim could answer this because I told him all this stuff.
Walk through. Do you have a crew of 2? Do you do it by yourself?
It's just
30 dudes.
Yeah, I mean there are some bigger fence companies, but we're a relatively small fence company. My father owns a company. I work for him full time. My sister works.
But don't you technically have your own company?
Yeah, I do have my own as well. Like so my father only does agricultural stuff, and I do all the residential fencing.
Okay.
I did a little bit before COVID, but when COVID hit, so many people moved up from the city, and like everybody wanted to like fill out that white picket fence dream. And so like the residential fencing, like I do like basically nights and weekends. I'll do anywhere between like 45 and I think like this year I did like 55 invoices, so like 55 fences. Well, I guess not fences, but like 55. Yeah, but this is on the side after working for my father, so I work a lot, basically all the time. But so I mean it's, I don't know, like sorry to like break your heart.
You're not breaking my heart.
I mean, fences is one of those things where fencing is that simple. You get there, you build the fence, and that's it. But at the end of the day, like
I'm gonna make you go through this.
At the end of the day,
I'll make you go
at
through
the end of the day, though,
like in your fucking sleep.
Yeah. But like at the end of the day, like even if it's a simple job, like I'll walk you through everything. But the reason why I continue to build fences and so my big, like, let's go back for a half second. my big plan was to be a dairy farmer.
Okay.
And I came out of school, and in the worst way, I almost actually wanted to do exactly what Timmy's farm was doing with like raw milk, like, and like back then, like now it would have been great to do because like farm to table is huge, especially in that area. But it was so hard to find grants when I first came out of college. I couldn't find anywhere. It was like, you know, the however many people were fighting for these grants. It's not by county, but you know, you have like 200 people fighting for like 4 grants, and I'm trying to do $1 million startup to have this dairy farm. I just like, I couldn't make it. So I decided to go work for my father. And so like ditch the idea of being dairy farm. Fast forward, now I'm building fence. Fencing is as simple as it sounds, but the one thing that continues to make me stay building fences is like at the end of the day, I can turn around and I can see what I've done. Like you know, like anyone I know who does site work, they could literally have a flat piece of ground and build a mountain. And a year later, no one will know that the ground is flat. Anyone new coming in, you don't even know the work they did. So I can turn around and for 40 years, I can sit there and like, as long as nobody rips it down, my fence is going to be there. And everybody can see that. And my thumbprint is on the entire county, multiple counties around for as long as I continue to build fence. So like, that's one of the biggest reasons why I build fences, because like I can just see everything I accomplish. Same thing, like, you know, I love doing hay, but like if you mow hay, like it just grows back, you know? So it's like, there's something very satisfying.
There's like a permanence about it.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. And like, if you talk to anyone, everyone loves a new fence. I don't know what it is.
I was going to say, if you build a nice fence, you're just like, you just want to look at it. I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea what it is either. But it's like, you know, people just really
that
like
satisfaction of it.
And like part of it's a little bit of a status too, I think. Like, you know, like you get a new fence, like now your neighbors are jealous, you know, because you got a new fence. Like it's always like the keeping up with the Joneses.
Like why people wanted a freshly painted fence, or why somebody wants a freshly stained fence or a brand new one.
Yeah. But so like quick, you know, rundown of like, so we meet with the customers, we figure out like what they want to do. We talk about all their different options, what the purpose is, kind of go through everything. And like, that's one of the things about like, I would like to pride myself off between my father and I is like, or with my father and I compared to other fence companies is like, we really take the time to like talk to our customers, see what they want, see what their needs are. I can't tell you how many times somebody's told me, oh, I need this fence. And it's the most expensive fence you could possibly have. Practically, you could get away with something else and like they save quite a bit of money. If I was any other fence company, I probably would have just built them the more expensive fence. But like taking time to spend time with the customer, figuring out what they really need, what their budget is, and how they like what the practicality of it is the biggest thing. So you meet with the customer, you walk the property. Is there going to be rock there? Are we going to have to dig? Can we just pound the posts in? You know, you start to figure out like what a section of fence is going to cost. You know, you give them a price. A section of fence is 8 feet. Board fence is, at least in New York, depending on like different areas in the country, they measure things differently. Like a section of fence in Kentucky is 16 feet, but in New York, it's 8 feet. And then like wire is normally done by the foot. So you figure all that out. Then like after that, it's all about efficiency. It's an assembly line. You know, that was like the one thing my father always taught me is like count your footsteps. So like you get to the job, have the site prepped, and you lay out all your posts. You run your string lines, make your marks. Whether you're digging holes or pounding posts, your posts are right there laid for you. So after everything's on the ground, you install the posts and then you mark everything out for boards or wire, whatever you're going to use. Lay the boards out, put the boards up, on to the next one. Like it is.
So you're laying out your day's work every day.
Depending on the size of the job, but yeah, I mean, like sometimes, like I mean, like if we know we're going to get 100 posts in the ground, but like say it's a long run, I mean, we're not. I mean, more than likely we would lay out like, you know, the entire line. Like if there's 4 sides to a fence, hypothetically.
Okay, you
like
lay out that entire line all the way, lay out all the material.
Yeah, just
stretch it all out.
Get all the posts in, do the next line, all the posts in. And it is really just like an assembly line. And like,
so you're like when you're working here, all your materials are right here. You don't have to go back and go get it. So okay.
Yeah. And everything's right there. And I mean, we have a utility truck. I mean, that thing is literally a moving shop. Anything like any repair we have to do on our trucks. I mean, my father he's been doing it for 40 years. So
so you're not running back and forth to the hardware store or whatever.
I mean, like sometimes it drives me absolutely nuts. Like I'll like open the door and I'm like, just roll my eyes. Like there's like a nut that we haven't used for like 7 years, and I'll roll my eyes. I get pissy about it, and like 3 weeks later, be like, we need that nut. And I'm like, ugh. Like I want to get mad about it, and then we use it, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Because like on my jobs, I don't have utility. I have a flatbed with 4 toolboxes underneath, so I can only carry half the tools my dad does, and I can like get by, and then like. I'll be like, yeah, see, like, you don't need that. You don't need all those tools. Like, my dad's got like 6 hammers on the truck. There's 2 of us full time. My sister works part time, and then we have one other guy work like 1 day a week. Mm-hmm. We're not a big crew.
Yeah,
why do we need 5 hammers?
Yeah.
And then a hammer head or a hammer breaks. And then it's like, see? And it's like, okay, we still don't need that many, but
yeah, whatever.
It's there. You know, and like that's the other thing. Like it's always about being prepared with my father in terms of like his material lists. But yeah, I mean, he's got it. He really does have it down to a science. And like, I know that I don't say it enough and I don't thank him enough, but everything that I know about fencing, obviously I've learned from him, but there's so much in life that I've learned from him. Like talking about growing up, like, you know, hunting was a really big thing in our family. Like working on cars, like I had an old 69 Dodge Charger and like him and I worked on that a little bit. I sold it. Yeah. I thought it was a good idea to go to college to get a piece of paper that I never used.
Got it. What motor did you have in that car?
440.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
You sold a 440 69 Charger?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
shit.
it was automatic. So.
Whatever. It's still thick.
Oh, yeah. It was. I will say, like, the guy who had it before me, it wasn't numbers matching. It was supposed to be black on black.
Who cares?
I know. It was supposed to be
still
black.
69
I know.
Charger with a 440.
I know. It was black on black, and I always wanted to put it back black. The guy who had it before me, he went through, frame up, sandblasted the frame, brought everything to life.
Okay, so now you just have to build some more fence to buy a 69 Charger.
Yeah. Actually, I think the next project for me is, in the weirdest way, is a 66 GTO.
Okay.
Yeah, convertible.
Yeah.
Like nice rag top.
Sweet.
I think that would be a sweet one. But yeah, I mean, like quick going back to like my father. Like I mean, like changing brakes on cars, oil changes. Like I've really have like, and I mean like it's the struggle dynamic between a father and a son. But like I've in a way lived in his shadow in a way, like to learn from him for a very long time. And like I can say that I'm super fortunate. Like not everybody's father works the way that my dad does. Like anyone who knows my father will say like hardest working man, like in Dutchess County. Like he's up every day at 3:30, stays up till 9. Like he'll go to work with like he's just built different. Like goes to work with broken ankles. Like it's just he's other like I don't know how to say it other than he's just built different. But like he's like just his brain works so mechanically, and it's just been like it's great to learn from. It really is, because like you don't get that type of knowledge from like I mean like YouTube University, right? That's great. I love like YouTube has taught me so much, but like when you're sitting there getting yelled at because you're holding a flashlight wrong, that's where you really learn stuff.
That's true.
You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good things to pick up from that kind of a person.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, just super fortunate. But like, I mean, he's just, I don't know. He's so well-rounded. He's very capable.
What's your dad's name?
Willie.
Shout out to Big Willie.
Big Willie.
Well, because there's Little Willie, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Willie Jr.
Shout out to Big Willie.
You gotta see, if you ever shook Big Willie's hands, he's just got like fucking
I'll start bleeding.
like bare paws.
Yeah.
Hands.
He's never wearing a glove in his life.
How tall is your dad?
My dad's 5'9".
Okay.
He's fucking like he looks like he's about 6'6".
Yeah.
And he just like grabs your fucking hand. And you're like,
I have somebody who I knew played football in college. It was a junior college, but it was a D1 junior school. Mm-hmm. He was an offensive lineman. To this day, my father's hands are the biggest hands he's ever shook.
Okay.
And like he's 5'9". He just has.
They're just like full arthritis hands from like working with your hands for 40 plus years.
Yeah, I mean, if you're building fences without gloves your whole life, probably doesn't even have a shovel and just fucking
Everybody used to say this joke that my father used to just slam the posts in by hand every day.
It's like boom.
Yeah.
Don't even need a. What do you guys have? Like, I guess
Pounder. We got a post pounder and we got an auger to dig the holes.
A post pounder, like a mechanical one, and then also like one that like has a little motor on it.
Well, actually, so our post pounder it's very similar to like a guardrail setup, but it's a 1,200 pound free fall weight. Just slams the post right into the ground. Okay. But I mean, like in the area that we live in, Dutchess County, there's a lot of rocks. So I mean, we can use it. Like we can put in over 200 posts a day on like good ground if we're set up for it. But dude, I got the worst Charlie horse going on right now. I gotta move.
All right, move.
I was gonna say you got to tell Kyle about your dad's car collection, his garage full of cars that he has.
Yeah. The average person would have a collection of cars. My father has one of the best collection of John Deere tractors. Like, I mean, like,
what is there, like 50?
You got 50 tractors?
I don't know about 50, but there's a lot. But I'll tell you, like,
there's at least 30.
Yeah, there's 30, but there's some real gems in there that like. So
they're all John Deere.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I was gonna say he's got the first tractor he ever owned was a Farm All H. He's got that, and he's got a few Farm All, like just a few small Farm Alls.
No Fords, huh?
No. He had a Ford for like a week, and then my brother-in-law bought it. But like he I mean, to get into some of them, so like there's this 4320, which is really sought after. John Deere was made for 2 years, and my dad doesn't ever go on the internet. Like he just told this guy Jerry Stone, who he does a lot of our work on our tractors, like a lot of the major engine holes and stuff, and
they're all in relatively good working condition.
Yeah. And the funny thing about this 4320 is he found it, or this guy Jerry Stone found it, printed pictures off because my dad doesn't use the internet, handed them to my dad. My dad bought it sight unseen, had it shipped up. It's like there's a guy, McFadden, who owns an auction house and a tractor dealership, who drools over this tractor. This tractor's confirmed to have 1,100 original hours, and the tractor is built in the 70s. Completely unheard of. And like when John Deere would ship tractors from the factory, they were always as narrow as possible. They bought it, and it's still there. Like it's been proven. The cork is still in all like the sets and everything. The tires were never moved out from factory. So the tractor is sitting in the way that it did the day that it was shipped. And like he had a bunch of 2-cylinders. Yeah. He had a bunch of 2-cylinders. He's got this John Deere 40.
It's so interesting because like people, there's like all the people who are real strict of like matching numbers cars, right?
Yeah.
And
that's why I said like tell him about his collection of cars.
And then there's like people who like just hot rod everything, right? And so like they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, like there's purists and then there's not.
And so then it's funny that it's like the same thing with tractors. Like, bro, the tires are in the same position. This is crazy.
I will say there's one other. I mean, my dad's got a few of them, but one other really like interesting tractor he's got is a 4255, which is the number is just the size of the tractor, how many horsepower it is. But it's an open station, so it's got 4 posts. And John Deere made a few thousand of those tractors, and there's less than 200 that they put a cab interior on an open station. My dad owns one of them, and so like there's just a bunch of like rare gems, like some oddball stuff that he owns, and like I mean it's just
what's he do with them?
Just has them.
Okay, so
yeah.
So I mean, everyone does it. Has a garage full of cars.
Yeah, I mean, like he makes hay with them. I mean, like he's got his few favorites, but like that 4320, that thing doesn't move. Like that thing's there for.
It's a collection.
Yeah, that one's there. That one's there to look at. But like, I mean, all those tractors he does use. He makes hay and stuff with them. But
has he like repainted them all, and or some of them he leaves?
Some
like,
of them.
Okay.
Yeah, some of them get left like kind of in original, but
doesn't he have one of my father's tractors?
We got
4320, right?
Yeah. So that's actually another one of those kind of rare birds. I mean, that one's it actually sits right across in the barn from.
Are they all in a barn?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the wintertime, all of them get stored away. In the summertime, like the working tractors sit outside.
Yeah.
For the room for hay and stuff.
If you ever visit upstate New York, Kyle, remind me. Maybe we can go look at Willie Brown's tractor collection.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I have a friend that restored an old Ford tractor, and like he was like the same way. Like got way into it, and it was like it's 100% original. And
They're
man,
so
he,
nice.
He put so much work into it. I was like, man, this thing's really cool. It was a really small old Ford. I don't know anything about him. But I was like, man, like you've really like redid everything on this thing. I was like, that's cool.
Just the way they built them, the steel, like that's why they're still like guys still run them today and use them every day.
Yeah, the John Deere 50 series and 55 series, which was like a late 80s, early 90s they ran into, it was John Deere's best-selling tractor. And I don't know about now, but even up until like probably 2011, 2012 was still John Deere's most sought-after tractor, even above the new stuff that they were buying or new stuff that they were selling.
I think they don't they now.
Why do you think that is?
They were just so easy to work on. You know, like
that like proves my recent theory of like things aren't getting better as it relates to like cars and shit. They're getting worse.
Yeah, I think that
right. Like there's certain things. There's certain things that are definitely getting worse, and you're like, dude, what the fuck is going on here?
I can tell you that rental car or the truck. I am not a Dodge guy, but I got a rental to drive out here, and I had a Dodge Ram 2025.
Pretty sweet.
It had like 1,500 miles when I picked it up. That was a lap of luxury to drive out in.
Yeah.
Way better than my 2012 GMC.
Yeah. Well, I guess there are certain things.
There are like certain, you know, like creature comforts have gotten a lot better. But I would agree with you. Like the more computerized the vehicles are getting, the more like, you know, like there's less like mechanics. There's a lot of part changers now because the computer's just telling them, hey, this is wrong. So then they change the part, and it's like, oh, it didn't fix the problem, so it must be something else. And it's just like, I don't know. I think the more electrical that gets into them, like they just cram the motors
technicians and part changers. They're not mechanics.
Yeah, but
they don't actually understand what they're working on. They just know how to change parts.
Yeah,
it's really like it's computer guys that are like they're essentially the mechanic because they build this thing is built as a computer the way a car's built. You know what I mean? Like you have to know how to work on a computer to know how to work to essentially work on any new car.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I know quite a few like older mechanics that, you know, kind of got out because like that gentleman Jerry Stone I was telling you about. If you call him and you tell him your tractor is any newer than like 93. He's not showing up. He has no interest. He's not going to go out and buy a computer. I don't know how old he is, but he's in his 60s.
You know that
he's
in a
ready.
weird way though, that guy was ahead of his time because I don't know if you've ever. I'm sure you've seen this because he used to work on some of my father's tractors. He'd always be listening to these books on tape.
Yeah,
and this is like when I was a kid, and this is like the equivalent of like people listening to audiobooks. And this was like over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Talk
radio and books always.
Yeah, and he like he's like a pretty quiet guy. He doesn't like he like wants to show him your tractor and he'll fix it. He'll tell you what's wrong with it and he'll really fix it right. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I just remember always listening to those books on tape.
Not only that too, but I used to call him like a parts catalog for John Deere. I'd be like, oh, you know, I'd tell him like, oh, I need this or this. And I'd be like, oh, I think I got the wrong part. And he's like, oh, is it like AR2214? And I'm like, oh no, it's like AR2213. He's like, yeah, they gave you the wrong part. Go back and get this. He like
knew it that well.
That well.
Yeah, that was like his thing.
Yeah. But I mean, he's a very talented mechanic. I mean, and he's slowing down a little bit, but like, I mean, like you say, I mean, any new mechanic, they definitely have to have some computer skill set for sure. But I mean, I don't know. I like older stuff. And I think like at the end of the day, like if you respect cars, like your dream cars are always the oldest stuff. I think like, because like the bodies were just like smoother, like there was just like a better line. I don't know. Like, I think cars were so much better looking in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. I mean, to a degree, I guess. But it's the way
there's a lot more. I think there's.
Did you guys know that there
seems to be there more individuality?
Well, do you know there's a theory about that, like with the cars you're talking about, and now you can speak to the tractors too. It's about psychedelics, and then like people being so much more creative.
Yeah,
like everything like the 80s and 90s stuff sucks so much. Like really the 90s, like. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like if you think of vehicles, like what's 90s that's sought after?
99 Civic. Didn't you see Fast and the Furious? Everybody wanted a 99 Civic.
In the 90s, what's sought after?
Yeah, like car.
And there's a few cars that are like,
it's like few and far.
Yeah, they're not. It's definitely like, I mean, I like the 90s Silverados. Those are cool
I like
trucks.
the 90s Fords, but yeah, there's like a few things here and there,
yeah.
but it's like,
but like they're not.
The 90s Fords like kept the body style of like that square body style though, like which was so popular.
Well, it's interesting, right? Like a 90s. If you take a 90s Silverado, it'd be way cooler with a fucking 70s engine in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's
seriously.
Well, that's why that's like the big thing. Like everyone takes a 12 valve Cummins or like the new Duramax motor and puts it in an old square body. Like there was different eras. Like there are eras that, you know, like nothing was ever perfect in one era. There was better motors in different eras, better body styles in different eras, you know. But I think a lot of like the unindividuality today comes from like the mass production side of it. I think it's just easier to make
it's
four
interesting,
cars that
right?
look
Like
similar.
Take a Tesla, right?
Yeah.
They only produce them in like 4 colors.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no individuality in a Tesla. Yeah. They're all exactly the same.
Well,
right. And so like they're cool.
Yeah.
But like they're not that cool.
Well, I think the Cybertruck.
Like, why does everybody, if you go into a parking lot, like, and you're like, you can see all, so especially if you go to other cities, go to a big city and you'll see Teslas everywhere, right? And so, and you'll see like 10 or 20 white Teslas in the parking lot. And you're like, they look identical.
Didn't all the Cybertrucks come in the same color?
I don't know.
I think
I've only seen stainless.
Yeah, I think any Cybertruck that's not stainless has been wrapped or painted.
Yeah, I've only seen a couple, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I think, well, I mean, back to the 20s, Henry Ford said it. He said you can have a Model T in any color you want as long as it's black, because it was just easier to keep it. You know, like it was easier to only have black,
especially from a production standpoint. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think there's older cars are really cool.
If you had a dream car, if you could, like, it doesn't matter price, what would it be?
Probably like a 1970
Dodge Charger.
A 1970 Pantera. You know what a Pantera is?
I've heard of them. I don't know if I can like visualize the exact 70 body.
Yeah,
style.
so they're like, it's an Italian car that looks kind of like a Ferrari / like a Lamborghini, but it's like that crossed with like a muscle car, and it's a mid-engine car.
Oh, okay.
You know what Pantera is?
No, that's the
now I got to see it.
What's that?
Pantera is the company that makes it.
No, not Pantera. De Tomaso is a.
Pantera is the model.
Panther is what it's. But and they had a Ford motor in them, so they sound like an American muscle car.
When I was growing up, I always wanted a GT40, like the worst way. Old Ford GT40 Le Mans.
My brother wanted a Mitsubishi Eclipse.
Because of Fast and Furious. Because of the Fast and Furious. What about you, Tim? What's your dream car?
It'd probably be like as stupid as it sounds, is like I'd want a 90s Ford truck. Like just one of the, like, you know, like the one I had forever.
What small town did you come from again?
Yeah. But just, you know, like mint condition.
Yeah.
XLT.
I mean, that old one you had was, I mean, I remember that truck. That was still, I mean, that was a good truck even up to the day you got rid of it.
Yeah, it was nice, and I'd even painted it and put a bed on it, but it was still a farm truck. And I was a kid, so it was like fixing it up the way a kid would. Which was like, you have enough money to make it work.
Yeah. I mean, like if I sit here, like I think like, I don't know what it is about the 66 GTO ragtops. Like, oh, okay. Yeah.
I've seen those.
Yeah. They're similar to the GT40s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, real similar.
I think, but like if I could pick a project, it'd be the 66 GTOs. But like if I was to pick like the car of any era, like the 2019 Corvettes, those were like a really nice body style, just all around. I'm for some reason not a big fan of the mid motor. It's the body style just before the mid motors. I mean, I think that'd be a fun car to have. But like, it's funny. You're like, oh, you know, I don't think I'd really want any. But then you start thinking about it and you're like, oh, I would want this. Oh, yeah, this. Oh, this, you know?
So yours would be a 66 drop top GTO.
Yeah, if I was
4-speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I was to pick a project car tomorrow, that'd be it.
90s Ford diesel, 1-ton pickup truck.
America.
Really? Okay. But nothing like would you soup it up? Or would you
No,
just
I mean like a little bit. It would be like pretty close to stock. It's just like they're nice stock.
Well, I got news for you.
What do you got?
That's 100% attainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like it will definitely happen at some point.
Well, and I was just thinking about it. I was like I've there's like something about these Panteras that I just loved them even as seeing them as kids. And I don't really want like something that's like crazy special that's like different about them. It's just like they're fucking cool looking. Like when you see them on a picture, you see them in person, there's like it's a whole different thing. You see them in person, you're like, whoa, that thing is fucking cool. They're super low to the ground. They're super wide. They have these huge wheel wells. I mean, they look like a fucking race car.
I don't know if either of you guys can relate to this, but you know what that truck is for me? Like I had a truck like that. And like, it's a time machine.
It's 100% time machine.
In the best way. Like all I know is like when you get in that truck and you like and you grab that shifter in your hand and push that clutch and put that thing in gear, like it's, dare I say it, nostalgic.
Yeah, it's definitely a nostalgia.
It's so cool. It's just like, and just hearing that loud, obnoxious diesel motor, like, oh, you know what I put in it? Is an exhaust brake. Just because I had one. It's just like louder. It just sounds so cool. Like there's nothing cooler than downshifting that when you're coming down. Like, just it's too cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm excited.
I think a lot of that stuff, like, I mean, cars for sure does it for a lot of people, but it can be anything. Like, it really takes you to a different time, and I think that's what makes people so passionate about stuff. Passionate about cars, passionate about whatever it could be. It just takes you to a different time, to a time like maybe you were happier about, or however you want to say it.
I don't even, and for me, I don't think it's to the time that I had the truck. I think it's like to the time the truck was made. Like you just think the whole world was different then. Like this was what was brand new. Like this was the Cybertruck, but it was a Ford F-350 XLT, and it was like,
I think I had a cassette player. That was new age. Did they even have a cassette player?
It depended. Like I don't know. I don't know what they had factory, but like the one that I had lumbar in the seats, had AC, and it has little West Coast, West Coast mirrors that spin. So there's a little mirror in front of the big one. It spins back, and that thing's just like a rapid air, like air that comes in, like literally on your balls, like, and the flow is like top notch. Like this thing. This was the bee's knees.
This makes me think about, you guys got to come out in the summer. You got to come back out to Coeur d'Alene, and you got to come out in the summer. And my dad has an old 70s boat. That's like basically the fastest sports car you've ever been in on water. And it's crazy. And it's just so much fun to drive. It's the coolest thing to drive, and when you drive it, you have to be alive. You have to pay attention to it because it's really fucking dangerous if you don't. And you're like just a handful. You're literally like 12 inches off the water, and it's got 600 horsepower.
Wow,
and it fucking rips. And so that's why you have to like really pay attention. And so I think that's what I think about, like with old cars, is like you actually drive them. Like you
feel them.
You have to pay attention to them, right? Like there's no texting and driving with like an old sports car. Doesn't happen. You can't do it. Like you know what I mean? Like unless you're sitting at a light, right? Like you can't text and drive. You know, you really can barely even hear the other person, right? And I think that's also what's cool. Like when you're old, like, can you imagine, being in a 69 Dodge Charger or like a GTO, like you're almost like yelling at the person next to you, hey, because the car's like, and so that's what's cool. I think about them is they make you feel alive.
That truck that I had, it was like the carpet and the interior was just stained up and dirty from the farm. So I took the carpet out and the insulation out, and I just rhino-lined the whole floor. So fucking loud in that thing.
Oh my god!
Like you just like you cannot take phone calls or do anything.
Yeah, the cars today, definitely the creature comforts are better, quieter, talking, everything. But like, there is something to be said about like an older vehicle like you feel it when you drive. Like
Yeah,
it's in you.
There's no doubt the cars are way more comfortable today. And I don't dislike Teslas. I think they're really cool. I've driven one. I recommend that everybody go drive a Tesla.
They're fun.
They're fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I don't even like with brand new like some of the trucks I have now. I don't even text and drive. I send emails on my laptop while I'm driving.
Yeah,
they're so nice.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there's a cop listening right now. Jeez. You're worried about fish and game regulations. You're over here just throwing yourself right under the bus.
Hey, I'm sorry. I've never seen anything say don't send emails on your laptop while driving.
Right.
Those cops I see are on their computers while they're driving.
Right.
You guys got like a bead like dug into this table.
This table's got some history. We don't know any of it, but it's got some history.
We're gonna make up lies and stories about it.
Looks like it.
Kyle, you got any good questions for Casey?
Yeah. You want to get deep?
Yeah, we can,
all right,
whatever you want.
Let's get deep. We don't even know this guy. He's avoiding all our questions.
Yeah,
well, I've answered every question. Every question you've given me, I've answered.
What do you got?
Open book.
You can't do that to me, man. I'm still thinking.
It's all right.
Yeah, we're at.
Dude, you can't eat lifesavers in the mic.
Oh, my bad. Here, I'll just
what's the most important thing that's ever happened to you in your life?
Boy, there's like so many ways to like.
While you think about it, I'm gonna need a lifesaver.
Okay, I'll give you that one. I feel like there's a lot of ways to like.
Your face just said that was a great lifesaver, and you're going to be having some more.
Gotta watch out for that red dye that's in there, though.
Shout out to our sponsors, Lifesaver Gummies.
Yeah, no free ads, right? Oh, see, I'm unexperienced. I never would have done that. So the best thing that ever happened to me, boy, that's like,
that works too.
Yeah. Wait, what was the question?
No, answer that one.
What was your question?
My question was, what was the most important thing that ever happened to you? You interpreted that as, what's the best thing that ever happened to you? And I love that question too. So answer that one.
Well, I just don't want to be accused of avoiding.
No.
So like
and don't beat yourself up over it has to be the best or the most important. If it comes to mind, just
like I think something that was really important for me as a person was college, just in general. I think I graduated like 90 kids in high school. We were the biggest class in like 10 years to go through. And I was in such a small high school. I mean, I was friends with a lot of people, but there was like cliques here and there. But I was like, I did a lot of sports and everything. I got along with everybody. But like going to college was like one of the first times it like made me realize like, there's a lot out there. And like going through college like helped me grow and develop as a person. I mean, like it was great for educating myself and everything else, but like it made me realize like it helped me like to recognize how to read people. Like when I grew up, like I knew everybody from like since they were like 5 years old. So like in college, all of a sudden, like you meet someone and they seem genuine to your face. And it's a hard lesson to learn that not everybody's genuine and not everybody has your best interests, or not everybody is like people will just keep you around just because they can get something from you. And the second you stop giving them whatever they wanted, they're not going to be there. And so like there was just like some tough lessons in college that like just allowed me to recognize that. And college also helped me be quite a bit more self-aware that like the world isn't like I'm part of this world. This world isn't like surrounded by me. Like I was popular in high school, I guess. So, but
okay, so let's break that down. So you going to college, are you saying that it was that experience of going to college, you're associating that with kind of getting out of your hometown, meeting new people, meeting people from a different background and have different ideas, or whatever.
Yeah, and honestly, like even now looking at it, like it didn't need to be college. It was college for me. I think that like I think just in general, like what's important, and like Tim would be the testament to this, like someone who never went to college, but then eventually just got out of where he was, moved. Like, I think it's really important for people to like, no matter what it is to like, just get out of your comfort zone. And that was like, that really is like in 18 years, the first time I was truly out of my comfort zone was I was 5 hours.
So it forced you to like grow and change and become more aware.
Yeah. And I mean, like becoming self-aware of just like the type of person you want to be, or like, you know, like all of a sudden, like the things that are important to you. Cause like, and when you're in college and you're surrounded by a bunch of people, like all of a sudden, like all the things you thought you were can change real quick. And that is because you're influenced by other people, or like maybe you were never the person you thought you were. And just now you're in a new area. And so now you get to recognize like, hey, I'm like this new person. Like, not that you get to rewrite the script, but like you get to be the person. Like Tim and I have had this conversation, like when he comes back home, and like I felt it when I came back home from college, like all of a sudden you're in everybody's box again. Like every preconceived notion anyone ever had about you, that's exactly what they think. So when you're not there, you kind of like get to like just figure out who you want to be. And then when you go back, it's like a culture shock for everyone else. But like you get to figure out who you are inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like it doesn't have to be college, but it can be anything. Like
it can be just going to a new place or trying something new.
Yeah, just like somehow pushing yourself outside of some sort of comfort zone to allow yourself to grow, create some adversity. Like actually that is probably it, is adversity. Like any struggle that I've had in my life is probably like, you know, would be important things to me, because when I look back at like all the adversity that I've had, the struggles that I've had, like those are what have made me to who I am today. Like, you know, like it's just, I think adversity is important, and I think that goes unnoticed. Like I think a lot of people, like, you know, like I've recently had a kid, like, and I want to protect him.
Congrats.
Thank you. But he's coming up on a year. Like, but I want to protect him at all costs. Like he starts to cry, I get like really nervous. And like, I like at this point, obviously at a year old, like he can't really regulate his emotions, stuff like that. But like, I have to remember that at a certain point, I can't continue to coddle him. I can't continue to like make sure his life is all roses. Because at the end of the day, like the adversity that he's going to go through in life is what's going to help him grow.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, like, long story short, it took me a minute to get there, but adversity, I think, would be a good thing. Like for me, like that is a good thing that has happened to me.
Yeah. And so you gave the example of college. So college was one of the most important things that you did, or was one of the best things you did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like some of my friends from college, I still have friends with them today. You know, I think that it's just overall, like, I think that that's something that really goes untalked about.
I would say it was the worst thing that ever happened to you. You got rid of his 69 Dodge Charger.
You know, arguably, that's looking at it now.
No,
I agree. But I agree. Object. I do agree. I do agree.
It's just an object, man. Ours are just an object.
They are. But I mean, like, I don't know. I think, like you say, there's an object. There's always going to be another one.
Yeah.
You know, like it is like looking at what they go for, like what I sold it for and what they sell for now.
Whatever.
This is gonna segue perfect into my question for you, because you brought up the kid that you recently had. Congratulations again. I was going to ask you, what's the most surprising or unexpected, which is essentially the same thing, that being a father or having a kid has taught you? And I know it's only been a year, but I'm sure there's been a lot of things that you didn't expect. Or, I mean, what did that make you realize about yourself or just about life in general? And excuse me, because I'm going to do this now or we're never going to remember, but you can answer this question, but I'm going to water these plants in here because I know we probably never have. So anyway, yeah, if that question makes sense.
They were all fake.
They're not.
You're going to do it now?
Oh, that one's got a brown leaf, actually. Yeah. Oh, man.
I have watered them once.
I did. That one looks like it's dying now that I'm looking at them. Oh, this one behind me is definitely dead.
No, it's good.
You guys got no sunlight in here. How do these things even live?
They're dark. They're low light plants.
Are they really? Yeah. You just making that up?
No, I did. Those are the ones I bought. low light one.
Did you buy low light plants too? No, absolutely not. You guys just got to get a UV light in here at night. It's rods.
We should just leave the light on sometimes.
Something I learned becoming a father. You learn how to be selfless pretty quick. I think, like
This guy's out here on an 8-day hunting trip.
that's true. Yeah.
Selfless.
I'm I don't know. I mean,
I'm just messing around, man.
No, but I will say,
I actually think it's
like,
probably healthy. It's really healthy for you to get away.
It's funny though, because like I can't talk to you or even like begin to tell you the amount of guilt. I was by myself with my own thoughts for 30 hours driving here, like thinking about the guilt of everything, about leaving Jess with Alan and like just by himself or by herself with him, like having to take care of it. Like he still wakes up in the middle of the night, but like, I mean, man, like just watching him grow, like the way that he like learning, the way he's like teaching himself to do things, he like just to like sit down and like when he realizes how a door works, that it swings one way to the other, it's like
he's fucking amazed.
Yeah. And it's like he's like figuring out how to clap. Like he thinks that that's the coolest thing right now. He sing-alongs. He like, now he starts to recognize. So like there are some songs that he recognizes and he'll get like real excited and start like bouncing around. But
this sounds like me every day.
I think I will say, like, I did not, I've been in relationships, I would consider that, I would say that I know what love is like, but man, like there's something about when you hold a kid and you look down and it's yours, like you have a new definition of love. Like I always used to like listen to like, like Joe Rogan and them talking about like, oh, if a guy came after my daughter or if a guy came after my kid, like I would be in prison. And I'm like, yeah, I would too. And then I held my son and I'm like, oh, I get it. I definitely would be. Like if somebody was like screwing around with him, like in any way or like picking on, like, I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like I thought I got it. And then like you hold him. But, like, I don't know, like really, like there is a big selfless part to it because all of a sudden, like your needs, like what you think don't really matter. Like come home from work, just worked 14 hours, Jess works, she works like 8 hours, but she has an hour commute each way. So she has a long day too. Alan's been at daycare. We get home, both of us are starving. Well, that doesn't matter. Alan has to be fed. Alan has to be bathed. Alan, has to be put down. Like, what used to be, dinners at, 5:30, 6. Like now we eat dinner at 9 because his needs come first. And like a lot of that will change. Like, I mean, it is because of how our schedule is right now. Everybody's schedule is different. And so it's like, like if we wanted to, a lot of times we do eat when he eats because now he's eating the same foods we're eating. So, I mean, like that's big help. Like the older he gets, obviously our schedules are going to change quite a bit. But like, really, it's like you just realize like, like there's now you have to take care of another human being. And it's like, like you made, at the end of the day, like we made the decision to bring this kid into the world. So it's like, you have to take care of it. You can't just be like, oh, I don't feel like, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, just worked 14 hours, gonna only get 5 hours sleep, 1 o'clock in the morning, and he's up crying. It's like, oh, you can't just leave him.
Right.
But I don't know, maybe selfless isn't like the perfect word, but like, I don't know. It's like I don't know. Selfless is the word in my head that that's what comes to mind. But I don't know, maybe there's a better word for it, but I just don't know how to articulate it.
I mean, I think it works. I got 2 questions for you.
I was going to, if I can just add to that, maybe this sums up how you feel. Cause I have heard Joe Rogan say like, you could speak this better than myself or Kyle because we don't have kids, but he said having a kid, the feeling that having a kid, what he equated it to, it's like watching your heart walk around outside of yourself.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I was just thinking that, like, when you were just saying, like, you can't explain what it feels like till you.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, like I said, I come from a huge family. I mean, my nieces and nephews, I was there for almost all their births, like, held them when they were newborns, like, did that. But, like, I mean, there's just something about, like, when you know that it's yours, like, there's just a very fulfilling feeling, like, of wholesome feeling that I cannot say that I've ever felt in any way. But you said you had 2 questions.
Yeah, so I just want to get your thoughts on this. There's no right answer, but
Don't answer it wrong.
I mean,
No pressure.
If you answer it wrong, dude, you're off the podcast.
Yeah,
immediately.
just shut it. Just end it right there.
I'm not gonna post it.
Yeah, honestly,
Wouldn't be the first episode we have post. Greg.
it'd be the worst uncut. When you guys make it big, you'd be like, "Who was your worst guest? This idiot Casey Brown we had. He answered my question wrong."
Yeah. So I've heard, when I heard this years ago, it really resonated with me. But like, you know, you hear it about somebody else's life, and I don't have children, and I'm not married, so like, it's something that I think is right, but I would be hypocritical to say that, like, I know, because I've not been in those people's shoes. I've heard parents talk about, you know, we put our kids first. And I think that's what I've always grown up of, like, kids come first. And then I heard a contradiction to that. It's like, no, kids don't come first. I come first. My wife comes second, and the kids come third. And then for my wife, it's she comes first, the husband comes second, and then the kids come third. Right. And so, and then they had a really good explanation as to, like, why it was that way. And they were like, basically they explained that, like, hey, like, if I don't take good care of myself, then I won't take good care of my wife, and I won't take good care of my kids. I would imagine that that's, like, really hard to practice, because you have, like, the example that you gave is like, hey, I got home from work, it's 14 hours, and, you know, I want to feed the kid first, right? I'm not saying don't feed your kid first. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, like, in general, I think that makes sense to me, of, like, I have to make sure that I am taking care of myself first, especially if you are taking care of the whole family. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on, like, what do you think about that? Because I do think that it's contradictory to what at least I always heard. I always heard, like, kids come first. We do everything for the kids. And now I kind of, I don't think that that's right. I think it's like the parents should take care of themselves first so that they can take care of the kids.
Yeah, and I think, to go off of what you're saying as well, because I have heard that argument, another good portion of that is, you know, one day the kids are going to leave, and then it's, you know, it's just me and you back again, and, like, that's a lot of times how empty nest syndrome happens. Like, you know, the mother puts the kids first.
That's such a wild idea too, to be like, hey, we're going to put our relationship on hold for 20 years. Yeah. See you in 20.
Yeah. So that way the kids can get out, and then all of a sudden it's like, I've been living with you for 20 years. Who are you?
Yeah.
So I think, like, as I just sat here and talked about selflessness and everything else, I think what you're saying is, like, I gotta, like, figure out how, like, I want to say it, because obviously I just sat here and was like, the kids, like, I just sat here and said, like, my son is number one, like, above me, above everything. Like,
and I'm not asking you to contradict yourself. I think you can blend what you said with whatever you want.
But I think what you just talked about is what Jess and I are finally doing right now. That's why I'm right here, is because her and I have had the conversation that it's like, hey, listen, like, if you want me to be my best self, I need to be able to hunt. I need to, like, be able to go out snowmobiling with my friends. Like, if you want me to be able to provide for you and be my best self, to show up for you every single day, this is, like, I need this type of break. So, like, what you just said is, like, kind of what we're putting into practice. But I think that has a lot to do with the age of your child. I think, like, the way that her and I are talking about, the way we're, like, kind of putting it together, is her and I both grew up in a family, like, kids first. But, like, her and I have both realized that like at a certain point, everybody, like whether it's like for her, like she manicure, pedicure, whatever, like she needs some time with friends to go out to dinner, whatever it might be, like we're recognizing how important that is, especially like it was important, but then once you have a kid, you do like get in a blur and you kind of forget how important
Yeah, but
it
I mean,
is
you only been like
for
you guys
a year.
Yeah, so like, you guys are doing a great job.
So like, but I think like it depends on the age of the kid, because like now, like the first 6-8 months, it is definitely kid first. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'm talking about
yeah.
over a long period of time, right?
But
like,
I think what you just explained, I think that is the way relationships need to be approached. I think that like in the very beginning stages, and that's where I'm at, so that's all I can talk about. It is like a kid first mentality. I do believe when he becomes more self-sufficient and the older he is, the easier he is, like, you know, he's easier to leave with people. Like her and I are talking about like vacations and stuff already. And like, you know, you know, he can stay with her mom, my mom, whatever, for a weekend and overnight or whatever to make sure her and I have that time together. So like, I do agree that like what you just said, by far, long-term 20-year plan, like that has to happen. And I think, you know, a lot of couples lose that, and I think that's why so many people fight in the beginning. And I'm like, her and I are really guilty of it, you know, of fighting and arguing and everything else. But like, you know, just
it's an adjustment.
Yeah, and it is like all of a sudden you're caring for a child. But like, you know, I had never heard that argument, and Jess was the one who brought it up to me, like maybe like 2 months in, because she told me, she was like,
I'm gonna send you a podcast.
Yeah,
there's a podcast of like this guy talks about his whole kind of family dynamic and relationships.
I'd be interested to listen to it.
It's just an interesting idea.
Well, she brought it up like 2 months in, and she was like, I can tell you love Alan more than me, you know.
Kyle, what's the podcast?
I have to. It's a Tim Ferriss podcast. I forget who the guest name was, but
don't worry, listeners. Just try to find it.
No, good luck.
I will find it and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I would love to.
The listeners can
the link is gonna be below. Isn't that what? Link below. Subscribe, follow.
I'll find it.
But no,
the listeners can fuck.
I heard what he said. I'm trying to save the podcast.
Ferris's podcast. You can find it over there.
I'm trying to,
or whatever.
Trying to save you guys over here. Yeah, no, I think, but so she brought it up to me, and then like she made, you know, that's why I made the argument that I made is, you know, once he's gone, then what about us? And you know, like that's really.
She brought what up to you?
What you had just brought up, like, oh well, if you put him first forever, what's going to happen with us in 20 years when he leaves? You know, and it's like, so, you know, that was the first I'd heard of it, was only briefly, or recently, I should say. And I did do a little bit of research into it. But that's why, like, I would love for you to send me that podcast. I got a long ride back. I'll listen to it.
I just think it's an interesting idea because it's like, it seems like it's such a better alternative than the, like, I have to give up my life.
I
right?
think
it's like, you know, I have to give up my hopes, my dreams to like have a child. And it's like, wait, why can't you integrate both?
Yeah, I think maybe that's why people started having kids later. Partially. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why, but I could see, like, you know, just knowing a lot of my friends into their mid and late 20s who spend the entire time traveling or jumping from seasonal job to seasonal job because that's what they really wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, and it would be hard to support a kid on a seasonal job. So they're like, well, I'm not going to give up what I want to do this or to have a kid. So it's like, then it just gets pushed back.
Yeah. So I think there's probably some of that. And like, there's that like people aren't even conscious of, right? It's just like happening in their subconscious. Again, like I'm a single guy. I doesn't have any children. I'm not married. So like, what do I know? But I think the idea of like trying to integrate both is a better option than not. Right. And so I'm not saying every day, every week, every month, every year, you're going to be able to successfully accomplish those ideas. But if you stretch that out let's say over a 5-year period, right? Yeah. You're like, hey, look, like, yeah, I gave that up this year because the circumstances were too much of a challenge. But then I started integrating this stuff on year 2. And then year 3 got a little better. And then year 4 got a little better. And then by year 5, you're like, oh, like, cool. I'm doing the thing I want to do. And my kids are doing well. And my wife's doing well. And we're doing well as a family. And so I think people are like, either or, this or that. And it's like, no, it'd be cool if you could integrate with like both.
Yeah, well, I can tell you. So, like every year, I look forward to hunting season. He was born October 12th. That is hunting season. That's archery season starts October 1st, and so it's like
you're gonna get to go hunting with him, like
hopefully one day.
Yeah,
I can't wait for that. But I think that's where like you recognize very quickly the quote unquote selfless part of it. But I can tell you, when you look forward to hunting, and then like you have a kid. And like, obviously nothing to take away from him, but it's like, and then you can't go hunting. That's when, and that's what I'm saying. Like you do recognize how important that me time is, or how important any of that stuff is for you to actually like being, okay, me first. Like it sounds a little selfish to say me first, but at the end of the day, it's important. Sometimes you just have to say no to somebody. Sometimes you just have to say like enough's enough, and you do need to focus. What's the old saying? You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is like, I hope for you that like you have this guilt when you drove out here, right? I hope that on the drive back home that you're like, this was fucking awesome. I'm so glad I did it. And then you're going to have more energy for all of the next 12 months.
I'm hoping to go back with an elk or a mule deer.
Yeah.
I can tell you what.
That would even give you more energy to be like, fuck yeah, I'm ready to go back home.
Yeah. And it really is. It's like rejuvenating in a way, Tim has a giant whitetail outside of his house. Biggest I've ever seen in my life. Never jacked a deer in my life, but I thought about it.
I don't know when you guys want to wrap this up, but I got a great Carl Jung quote for you.
Got a hot date?
Ready for it? The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents. It is our duty to live full lives, take risks, travel, find love, lose love, and play. If not for ourselves, then to spare our kids the unconscious weight we'll put on them to do it for us.
Can you send that to me?
Yeah.
Boy, you can send that to me too. That one's heavy.
Yeah.
But like,
anyway, you guys made me think of that when you guys were, I just heard
that's basically exactly what we're talking about. Is like, if you don't do these things, you fucking take them out on your kids.
What's that? Oh, shoot. Kids.
That's what that quote is saying.
Yeah, that kids movie.
Like you're putting the weight of all this stuff on your kids because you didn't do it.
There's a kids movie. I think it's called Element. It just came out. Like there's like Earth.
That's
Wind.
my favorite drink. It's not a movie.
It's like Earth, Wind, Fire. Anyways, so like there's different like parts of the city for each person, and like they're like fire people, water people, wind people, whatever. And like the girl who's a fire person, her father owns like a fire shop and is supposed to take it over, but she has this dream that she wants to be a glass blower. And somebody asks her why she won't, and she said, how can you not help the people who made the greatest sacrifice for you? Saying like the fact that like they gave everything to raise you and to have you, like they sacrificed their life. Like how can you not continue to honor them and like work? Because she was working at like the family store. And they were like, you don't want to be doing that, then why are you doing it? I don't know. I would have to find it, but at any rate, so it is right in line with that. But so yeah. Whoa.
How is it?
8:09.
Okay.
Well, 8:09.
Yeah. I just got to pee.
Well,
you
had one other question.
You answered all of it.
Okay.
We talked about it anyway. I was going to ask you about why you felt so guilty on your drive out here, but we got there.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
All right. We're going to put some elk down, some mule deer down.
Hopefully.
Hell yeah.
All right. Casey
Good luck,
Brown.
guys. Thanks, Casey.
I'm going to say it real quick. I thought I was going to try and figure out how to put it in really quick, and this is going to be your end. Is my first introduction on the podcast, he made fun of me for this gay joke. Remember that? So that
wasn't your first introduction, though. Maybe it was.
I feel like it was. Maybe.
Right.
I think before that, it was my friend. But anyways, I just want to, before we end this, and you're probably going to edit.
Set it straight.
You're going to edit.
No, I'm not.
I'm not even going to. You don't have to edit. Whatever.
I was trying to end on a young quote. But
I'm not even gonna set. I'm not gonna set anything straight. I'm just gonna say, like, at the end of the day, he is making fun of somebody who dropped everything to fly all the way out to Seattle and then help him move to Montana.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I wasn't even here to defend myself.
Right.
All I want to say is thank you, Casey.
Whatever. We all make gay jokes. I just felt I don't know. I thought it was gonna be funny.
It was funny.
Yeah. At the end of the day, who cares?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Until next time.
Yeah. See you next time.
Later.
Later.